Hello and welcome back to Project 380. In this video I'm going to be finishing off the rear quarters. So a lot of you have been asking what I'm going to do in regards to the inner arch, where it connects to the outer arch. And in all honesty, I'm not going to be repairing it. For my application, I really don't need to do that. So in my previous setup, I was running wide arches, where when you fit them, you actually cut most of this back to allow for wider wheels or a lower stance. So this time round, instead of going for the wide arches, I have gone for the over-fender option. However, this may change down the line in the future. So I've purchased myself a set of over-fenders from eBay with a 25mm flare. And because it's got a 25mm flare, that does mean that I'm going to be cutting again this part of the rear arch. Which means repairing the inner arch for me would be pointless. So I know where to cut this part of the arch, I need to dry fit the over-fenders. And to do that, I first have to remove the aerial. In these over-fenders, there isn't a hole for the aerial to go. And since I've removed the rest of the sound system, the aerial might as well go as well. To remove the aerial on the Mark II, we first need to remove this chrome bezel. And there's two little locating holes here that I'm just going to slip a pair of circlip pliers in and twist off and then remove the chrome bezel. And then inside the boot we need to disconnect the aerial motor, disconnect the aerial itself. If you then lift up the tray that's sitting in the side, then you can gain access to the drain pipe underneath the motor. You can simply pull that up out of the chassis. Then all that's left is a 10mm nut. Now with the aerial out of the way, I can dry fit the over-fender. If it all fits well, I can remove it again and I can plug up the old aerial hole. So this is looking pretty good. I've got a little bit of tidying up to do on the over-fender itself to make it fit really good. But other than that, it is quite a good fit. So I've spent a good amount of time examining the over-fender, how it fits to the car, and I've worked out where I can cut my arch. I also know that I can now weld up the aerial hole. So it's time to rip the over-fender back off, grab the grinder and a welder. To plug the aerial hole, what I'm going to do first is remove all the paint and get it back to bare metal, and then make a circular metal plug and weld it in place. So later on I'll hit this with a little bit of filler and a bit of paint. Now onto the rear quarter. The plan is to go inside the inner arch, clean everything up with a knot wheel and a belt sander to get rid of all the rust and debris, and I've got somewhere nice to weld onto. Then I'm going to come along and clean the weld back where I'll put the repair panel onto the existing panel. Then I'm going to come along and cut this repair panel back slightly, leaving a little bit of overhang, and that overhang I'm going to tuck up into the inner arch and weld it to the inner arch. Now off of camera I have already gone inside the inner arch and cleaned that all up with a knot wheel and grinder. So now it's on to grinding this weld back. So now the rear quarter has taken on the shape I want it to, I'm now going to concentrate on inside the wheel well. I'm now going to renew all the seam sealer and put a bit extra where the repair panel has folded back on itself, and then I'm going to repaint the wheel well itself before moving on to the rest of the car. So that is the inner wheel well all complete, and I've finished it in the truck bed liner as I've done in the front arches. Now to start filling the rear quarter. So my good friend Rowan, he is the one doing all the filling on this rear quarter. As you've just seen, he's put in a fair few layers, building it up bit by bit, getting rid of all the low spots. Now, I knew this wasn't going to be perfect, as this arch was actually creased up here from a previous accident, and I think that affected the way we put on the repair panel. It was a bit wavy up the top. So I expressed to Rowan, because I am putting an over fender on, it doesn't need to be perfect. I just wanted it looking reasonably okay, just in case in the future the over fender gets knocked off in an instant. At least it still looks a little bit good underneath. So as you can see, Rowan's about halfway through with the filling. He's still got another light skim and some dolphin glaze to put on top of that, and down in the door shut he's got a little bit more work to do. Rowan's taken a couple of days off, so that gives me the opportunity to just touch up the over fender and make that fit really snug, as a little bit of work needs doing at the fuel filler cap. So as you can see, the moulding around the fuel filler cap isn't quite finished off. So I just need to file this down so it's nice and smooth and the fuel filler cap still fits in the OVERFENDER. So my plan is to take this edge down bit by bit, keep trial fitting it until it fits nice and snug. That's fitting a lot better now. With the fuel filler cap hole all nice, neat and tidy and the OVERFENDER is still on the car, I'm now going to think about how I'm going to attach the OVERFENDER to the car. Now I have gone through a few different options of how I can attach the OVERFENDER to the car itself, and one of them was to bond it. I didn't really like that idea as this isn't a show car, I am going to be abusing it, and if I ever crack the OVERFENDER I want the option of changing it nice and easy. So bonding it I didn't really want to mess around with. The other is to rivet it like a Rocket Bunny style kit would be attached, but that again, if there was an incident where I had to remove the overarch, it's quite a lot of work to remove all the rivets, and I'd have to drill the rivets out without damaging anything else. So I'm going to go down the option of nutserting the car itself and just bolting them on. This is going to make it nice and easy for me when inevitably I will crack an OVERFENDER. I can just unbolt it and bolt a new one on. So while the OVERFENDER is taped in place with the fuel filler aligned, now is a really good time to drill all the holes in the OVERFENDER where the bolts are going to go. With all that being said, the bottom half of the OVERFENDER itself, I'm not sure whether I'm going to drill just yet. I may actually have to chop the OVERFENDER about here, remove the lower half, because in the future I am getting a body kit with side skirts, and I'm not sure how high the side skirts come up or whether the side skirts are going to be able to fit around the OVERFENDER itself. So for now I'm going to bolt in the rest of the OVERFENDER, but only bolt down to about here. So I've only just drilled through the OVERFENDER just to mark the car itself, ready to drill the car, as the hole in the car is going to be a different size to the one in the OVERFENDER, as the nutsert that's going in it is slightly bigger. Just before removing the OVERFENDER, we're just going to tidy up this bit here where it's overhanging the rear light slightly, and then we're going to remove the OVERFENDER and carry on filling. So that's the filling and smoothing all done, and I've retrieved my little drill marks that I made earlier after Rowan kindly filled over them. So now it's as good a time as any to drill these holes for the OVERFENDER where the nutserts are going to go in. Now with the holes drilled, it's time to key the rest of the paintwork and get the car ready for paint. This has taken me many weeks, but it's finally painted. This is actually the second time I've painted this, as the first time it looked really good, but something reacted around here in the lacquer and I had to sand it all back down and start again. And now the second time round, the lacquer has gone a little bit orange peely, so I'm going to have to wet sand it and polish it in a couple of days, as the paint and especially the clear coat needs a good few days to cure off before attacking it with some wet and dry. But for now, let's get this whole thing unwrapped, bolt on the OVERFENDER and see how it looks. So that is the sill and the rear quarter all welded in, all filled and painted and finished, and the OVERFENDER bolted on. This definitely was not the typical approach to doing this job, but for my application it was the right approach. If you thought I could have done anything different, please let me know in the comments down below. So in the next few days I'm going to be removing the OVERFENDER again and wet sanding and polishing the rear quarter back, and I'll finish off the OVERFENDER when the rest of the body kit is here. So that's all for this episode. I have set me up a Buy Me a Coffee fundraising page, so if you did feel like contributing towards the project fund, that would be greatly appreciated. The link is down in the description below. So join me next time where hopefully I'll have the car turned back around again, and don't forget to like and subscribe.